2016's Batman the Killing Joke is DC Animation's adaptation of the 1988 graphic novel of the same name, written famously by Alan Moore, who is well known for works such as The Watchmen, V for Vendetta, and From Hell, with art by Brian Ballard and John Higgins. It premiered this July at San Diego Comic-Con with mixed reviews and a little bit of controversy. The film is written by Brian Azzarello, who you may know from series such as The 100 Bullets, and is directed by Sam Liu, who's directed other DC animation films such as Batman Year One. Most importantly, the movie is produced by Bruce Timm, the same guy who gave us Batman the Animated Series. I think it's fair to say that this is a series that has defined Batman for nearly an entire generation. An important aspect to that is the voice actor Kevin Conroy, who has played Batman for nearly 25 years, and his opposite, Mark Hamill, who's played Joker exactly as long. Rounding out the cast is Tara Strong as Batgirl, aka Barbara Gordon, and Ray Wise as Commissioner Gordon. The story centers around Joker, who has just escaped from Arkham Asylum. His plan is to kidnap Commissioner Gordon and drive him entirely insane. Joker's working from the premise that anyone, no matter who it is, even the vaunted and valiant Commissioner Gordon, can go utterly insane after one really bad day. So Joker devises about the worst day you could possibly have for someone's life. He shoots Commissioner Gordon's daughter, Barbara Gordon, directly in the stomach, severing her spine and crippling her, then strips her naked and takes photos of her. He abducts Commissioner Gordon, takes him to some kind of abandoned funhouse carnival, and shows Gordon, who has been beaten and stripped naked himself, all the photos. And of course, it's up to Batman to save the day. As Bruce Timm noted in interviews, if he just did a direct adaptation of the 1988 graphic novel, he'd end up with a feature-length film that only clocks in at about 42 minutes. So, Timm and Azzarello added what's been called a 30-minute prologue to the film, expanding the character of Batgirl, basically because Barbara Gordon only gets shot in the original graphic novel. This has been leading to some of the controversy. In fact, that's pretty much all the controversy has been about. But before I get into that, let's talk about what works in the film before we talk about what doesn't and the controversy. Overall, I like the story of The Killing Joke, mainly for its portrayal of the Joker. I never liked it when the Joker tried to be this grandiose, almost megalomaniacal villain. It's much more scarier and much more interesting when he is smaller, more constrained, and focusing on things that are more realistic, like kidnapping someone, torturing them, and trying to drive them insane. To Timm and Azzarello's credit, they basically capture everything from Moore's original graphic novel. They've got it perfectly down. It's almost a shot-for-shot remake with a few added spots here and there. There are a lot of aspects of the original Killing Joke that I like a lot. I like the violence. I like the darkness. I like how far Moore pushed it. It makes it feel real. It's much more visceral, and it's a much more compelling read. And to their credit, Timm and Azzarello give us just that. What also made The Killing Joke unique, in addition to the violence and the grimness, was the backstory of the Joker, something that hadn't been tackled by writers before Moore. Here we see the man before the Joker, a failed stand-up comic living in poverty with a devoted and loving wife and expecting a child. So, to make ends meet, the guy decides to pull a heist with local criminals. In the process of planning, he learns that his wife has been killed in a freak electrical accident. The criminal thugs hold him to his promise to rob the company that he used to work for. Everything goes wrong when a security guard shows up, Batman shows up, and the guy falls into a vat of chemicals, coming out the other end, Shawshank Redemption style, laughing like a lunatic, thus giving us the Joker. All that stuff I really thought was great. In the screen adaptation, all that is portrayed exactly as seen in the graphic novel and works perfectly well. So what are some of the problems? For me, chief among them was the quality of animation. It had this strange liquid gel look to it that I just don't like. In fact, I haven't been impressed with American animation in the last 15 years. The characters are drawn very blocky, it's low on details, the backgrounds aren't dynamic, they're very static. Characters that are sitting at a bar or a table just kind of freeze in place, almost like a matte painting. It really doesn't work, and the animation was probably my biggest complaint. My other problem with the film was the prologue, but not for the reasons that you might think. I'm actually sympathetic to Timm and Azzarello's problem of trying to expand the story, give Barbara Gordon, Batgirl, a little more stuff to do. The problem was the execution. It just doesn't work. The prologue feels like it was slapped on to the beginning of The Killing Joke. Probably because it was slapped on to the beginning of The Killing Joke. The story of the prologue is utterly and totally original and independent of The Killing Joke. It revolves around Barbara Gordon and her tensions with Batman, as well as her attempt to bring down a local, uninteresting, uncolorful thug named Francesco. While not bad in it of itself, it has nothing to do with The Killing Joke. Why are we adding an extra villain here? It just felt like a really long episode of Batman the Animated Series that we didn't need. I would much rather have liked to see the Joker added to the prologue, maybe some dynamic between Batgirl, Batman, and the Joker, so that when we got into the meat of the original Killing Joke story, it made sense. Maybe even add a touch of irony. If they wanted to expand the Killing Joke, why did they just throw in a new villain and throw in Batgirl with this strange dynamic? This is not to say the entire prologue was bad. There were a couple aspects of it that I really did like. One of which is that the characters are not shown to be goody two-shoes. There's some ambiguity to their goodness, for lack of a better term. One of which is the fact that Batgirl and Batman have sex on a roof. It's clearly an error in judgment for both of them, but it worked for me. I thought it was adult and I thought it made sense. On the other hand, some people had big problems with this. For me, I think this is a red herring. It's not a big problem. It worked. The other thing I liked about Barbara Gordon is, again, she's a little more dynamic. Again, she's fawning over her boss, something that's realistic and believable, and she seems to have an anger management problem in the prologue. At one point, when she sees a boyfriend-girlfriend couple have a fight, she puts the guy in an armbar and throws him over some bushes. I liked it. Again, the characters are flawed. They're not perfect. They're not goody two-shoes. That part I was okay with. I think that's where most of the controversy is coming from. I think it's not founded. I would have rather it had something to do with the original Killing Joke. Just slapping it on there and adding another villain doesn't work at all. Also, if Tim and Azzarello wanted to expand the Killing Joke a little more, they actually could do plenty with the Joker's backstory. Moore's graphic novel is fairly thin, as they've admitted, so adding more things to the Joker's backstory, letting us see more about him, giving him a worse day than he already had, could have done a lot more to enhance the viewing experience rather than the prologue. Now, as far as the voice acting is concerned, Mark Hamill is stellar. It really is his movie when you get into the Killing Joke narrative. He's absolutely fantastic. I can't say enough good things about him. Tara Strong and Ray Wise are absolutely serviceable and do a fantastic job. I was surprised at how much I did not enjoy Kevin Conroy in this. He almost sounded bored. In the prologue, he really wasn't given much to work with, and in The Killing Joke, Moore didn't write Batman particularly well, and Azzarello and Tim didn't expand upon it or try and edit it up a little bit. It didn't work until the very end when Batman and Joker have their big confrontation. So I have to say, overall, the voice acting was good. Conroy let me down a little. So overall, I enjoyed DC Animation's adaptation of The Killing Joke. It obviously, to me, wasn't perfect, but it was pretty good. The controversy around the prologue, Batgirl having sex with Batman, I think is kind of nonsense. And the classical complaints about the violence and the horror of the story, I just don't take seriously, and I'm not going to waste my time dismantling them. It's a dark story with dark characters and have dark outcomes. If you don't like that, then The Killing Joke just isn't for you. Go read an Archie comic book or watch, Sunday morning cartoons. This is an adult animated film. It's rated R for a reason. It's actually kind of a soft R, but nevertheless, it's an adult story. So for all those reasons, I give the film about a C+. It's just okay. It had a strong source material that they were true to, but adding that prologue hurt it, and there were some missed opportunities that would allow them to expand on the original source material without violating the spirit of the story. So that being said, I give DC Animation's Batman the Killing Joke a solid C+, and I'd recommend it for any fan of the franchise.